Standard 6th. In chemistry chapter number 5, separation of substances. We know that sometimes we need to separate the components from the mixture for different purposes. And for that we have to use different types of methods according to the components of the mixture, their texture, their weight, density, etc. We cannot use one method for the separation of all types of mixtures. In the beginning we learn the methods like hand picking, threshing and winnowing, in which the different methods used for different purposes. When there is a small stones in the grain or to pluck the flowers or fruits, vegetables, we use our hand. That is known as hand picking. But when we take out the grains from the stalk of the crop, we thresh it, we heat them on a hard material so that the grains are getting separated, and then winnowing to separate the chaff from the grains. Now, sometimes we can't use that type of methods because the weight of the particles are nearly the same. We know that winnowing we can use only when the very light particles are there, so that they can run away with the wind. But now, sometimes what happens when we bring wheat from the market, before we grind them, sometimes there is some other materials are still there. Or when we want to make any dishes, means the food items from the wheat flour, what do we do first? We have to remove some impurities like the bran or some other small particles from the flour. What do we do? What do we take? What do we use for that? We use a sieve, or we call it charni. In Gujarati we call it charni. So, for the method sieving, we use a sieve. Sieve means a charni. It has a net type material. Fine net or gauze mean the wires. They are fixed on a wooden or a metal frame. You know how does the charni look? So, in which the wooden or the metal frame is there, and in which the fine net or the gauze material is fixed. And it is used for separating fine particles from the bigger ones. It means that if in a mixture there is a size different, only then we can make them separate. So the sieving is used when components of a mixture have different sizes. If they have same sizes, we cannot separate them, but there should be a difference. For example, if in the wheat there are some very fine dust there, then we can use that sieve. Then that holes in the sieve must be smaller than the size of the wheat. So what will happen when we take the wheat in the sieve and shake it with the hand? Then what will happen? Those dust particles will go down, drop down from that small holes, and the wheat will be on the sieve, and then we can separate like that. For different purposes, different types of sieves with smaller and bigger holes are available in the market. To sieve the flour, wheat flour, we use very fine net, so that if there are some big particles will remain on the sieve while the flour will be going down, drop down from that sieve. So what happens? The mixture is put in the sieve and shaken by hand or by machine. Sometimes at a big things, like when we go for the grinding the wheat, sometimes they allow it from the slant material in which there is sieve. Then if there is still the impurities are, that can be filtered, by the sieve, that can be separated. So sometimes it is used by machine also, shaken by machine or with the hand also. You know, every day when your mother make the chapatis, rotis, or any items from the flour, before using it, she will do that sieving, so that if any impurity is there in the flour, it can be getting separated, so that it cannot go in our food. So here that is the method of sieving. And sometimes maybe you have watched at the construction sites when the buildings are getting ready. Then what happens? They separate the stones and pebbles from the sand. Maybe you have watched that also. You can see in the picture first here that we use at home to separate impurities like bran or some other bigger particles from the wheat flour or other flour also. And here you can see the sieve which is used at the construction site, because when they bring that sand, in that sand also sometimes they need very fine particles of sand, but in the mixture there are some small stones or the pebbles are there. Then they allow that mixture to fall on that sieve, and then with the help of the spade or something, they are moving that mixture up and down. So what will happen? The sand, which are very, very fine, small particles, will fall down from the sieve, and then the big stones and the pebbles will stay on that sieve, and then they will make it separate. Sometimes nowadays it is used to separate the different size of coins, like when in the big temples people put their money, they have different size of coins. Then the modern sieves are made for separation of different size of coins also, so that they don't have to make them separate with the hand, otherwise it takes a long time So similarly in some factories also, like when they are making different grades of the like dry fruit, like cashew nuts, bigger size, smaller size, medium size, then they also have a special type of sieves such that all different categories can be separated, bigger one, smaller one and medium one can be separated from the mixture, because when it is coming from the farm, not all of them will be of the same size. So according to the gradation, they will separate grade A, grade B and grade C, like that. For that also, if you take with the hand, it will take a long time. But in this situation, they can use the different type of sieve so that it can be separated. And as I told you, we can use the sieving method only when the mixture has different size. Particles have different size. Otherwise, we will not be able to separate them. So that is the method of sieving, to separate the components from the mixture when they have the size different. Now the other method, sedimentation, decantation and filtration. These three methods are used step by step. When the solid particles are not dissolving in the water, when the solid particles did not dissolve in the water, and if you want to separate them, then we use this three steps: sedimentation, decantation and filtration. For example, if you want to separate some water in which there is some sand and some very light particles are also there, then what we have to do? We have to take that mixture in the beaker and stir it with some rod or the pencil or something. Then you will see that the sand particles being heavier, what will they do? They will settle down at the bottom of that beaker. And that process is known as sedimentation. And the water will be on the top. That is known as sediment, and the water is known as supponent. So now this is called sedimentation. Now from sedimentation, the mixture, it is not still separated. Water and sand are still together there. So now what we have to do? Slowly we have to tilt that beaker without disturbing that sedimented sand. We just pour out the filtrate or the supponent. Supponent, actually it is called supponent. And that supponent we can take out in the other container. And that process is known as decantation. So first sedimentation, it is followed by decantation, in which from the mixture slowly we can pour out the water without disturbing that sedimentation, and that is known as decantation. But now if there are some small impurities, very light impurities, will not settle down at the bottom. They will come along with that water that we decantate. And therefore, we have to use the last step, which is known as filtration. So we have to use that filtration method, in which the mixture is allowed to pass through a material with pores, very small pores from it. So what will happen? The water will pass through that pores, but the impurities which cannot pass because they are big in the size. And then the water will be filtered, that is known as filtrate, and the impurities will remain on that paper, which is known as filter paper also. You can see here, I will show you the methods, 3 methods, which are that sedimentation, decantation and filtration. Here in the first one, the mixture of sand and water stirred. So what happens? The sand is settling down at the bottom. So that is sedimentation. Now from that, the glass is tilted to take out only water from the top without disturbing that sediment. So that is known as the decantation. And then we allow to pass through the filter papers. We can make the filter paper like a funnel. Take it in the funnel, fold it 4 times, 2 times in the rounded one, and then you can open it to put it in the funnel, and then mixture is allowed to pass through that filter, and the filtrate water will be coming down because they can pass through that small tiny pores and the impurities cannot pass, so they will remain on that thing. So by this 3 steps, sedimentation, decantation and filtration, we can separate all the components in the mixture, mean the water, impurities and the sand. So heavy particles will settle down, light particles will come along with that water, that we have to filter again so that we can get them separated from each other. So that is the method of sedimentation, decantation and filtration. So we note that when we drink the fruit juice or the vegetable juice, also we filter them first and then we drink it. Similarly, when we make the tea, then tea leaves, we have to separate them. We can do the sedimentation will be already done, but when we do the decantation, maybe some of the tea leaves will fall down. So we take that gurney. It is like the filter, and then through that filter we filter that tea so that no tea leaves will be falling on that gurney only. So we can filter that. So here also the 3 methods are used: sedimentation, decantation and filtration can be used. Similarly, when you want to make the paneer, what will they do? Or they will take a fine cloth in which that curd is put and tied. Then what will happen? All the water will filter down and part of the paneer will be remaining in that cloth. So these are all the different types of methods we are using in our daily life also. So here we are going to finish today's session. In next session we will learn some more methods, and sometimes to make the separate the more than one methods are also used. We will learn about that in the next session, and it will be followed by the PDF file. Write down in your notebooks, and any complaint, any problem, confusion, write down in the comment section. Thank you very much.